Hey, good morning, fourth graders. This is your math lesson for Monday, May 4th. It is the second part of lesson 8-5, which is line plots, 1/2 inch, 1/4 of an inch, and 1/8 of an inch. And we made this line plot on Friday. This is just the example from the book. This would have been on page 286 in your math journal. And the thing that we need to review and remember from last week is that here they have it split down. You have 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6. But we talked about how the half here, instead of just being 3.5, could be 3 4/8 because 4 is half of 8. But you could also write it as, it could be 2/4 because we know that they're equivalent fractions. If you look, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 jumps between 3 and 4. So every odd numbered one, like this first one right here, is 3 1/8. It's 1 out of 8. But this next one, even though it could be 3 2/8, 3 2/8 is the same as, now watch what I do here. Every two of these, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's also 3 1/4 right there. And this next one is 1, 2, 3 jumps on the blue, so that would make this spot, oh, that's not the right color, that would make this spot right here 3 3/8. Now, the next one they already have listed because it's 1 out of 2 jumps. I'm trying to show you the equivalent fractions here. If you look, the next one is a blue one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would be 3 5/8. But now if you look at the next one in red, it could be, if you counted the blue jumps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 6/8, or if you did the red jumps, 1, 2, 3 out of 4 jumps. So this spot right here would be, we talked about, could be 3 3 out of 4. So every odd jump, if you look, 3 1/8, 3 3/8, 3 5/8, excuse me. This would be 3 7/8, and then you just have 4, because you'd have 3 8/8, which would make 8/8 is 1, 3 1 is 4. So that's the thing that you have to remember, is that as you're going through this, and you're counting all the different jumps, and we're trying to figure out what they are, every odd numbered one has to be an 8. 3 1/8. 3 2/8 could be 3 1/4. 3 3/8, 3 1/2, 3 5/8, 3 7/8. This one we skipped. It's 3 6/8, but you could also write it as 3 3/4. And then that would be 4. But moving on from that, what we're going to look at today is finishing page 267. We did the first couple on it just really easily. I want the print version, I think, right here. Nope. Not what I want. Where is it at? Oh, I know what I did wrong. Right here. This is where I want to be. And I want to be on... Nope, that's not it. Sorry, guys. We'll get there. Promise. Right here. I should just went to the other screen. So taking a look at this one, we did these first 3. You should have them written in from Thursday. Here we had 6. Here we had 3 1/2. And then we had 3 5/8. So we're on to number 4. And number 4 says, make it just a tish bigger, which messes all of those up, but that's okay. It says, what is the difference between the largest and smallest heights in inches. So what we need to do is we need to look back at our line plot. And rather than switch back and forth, I'm going to leave this here so that we can look at what we actually have. So when you look at the largest is the biggest number with an x. So that's 6. And the smallest is the smallest number with an x, which is this one, 3.5. It's the first x, and what would be the last x? Now I know there's 2 on 6, but it's still the last x. So we want to know the difference. In math, when you see the word difference, it means subtract. Difference means subtract. So we want to take 6 and subtract 3.5. 6 minus 3.5. Now, if we're doing this fractionally, we're going to need to do some regrouping, and this is something that I've taught you before, is that when you're going to subtract with a fraction and you have a whole number and you need to do some regrouping, we just leave this second part the same. It's just the 6 we need to work with. So we're going to rewrite minus 3.5 equals. And then what we need to do is regroup from the 6. We're going to cross it out, and down here it's going to become a 5. We're taking 1 away from it. This fraction determines what our new fraction is going to be. We took 1 away. And if we have halves, how many halves make a whole? 2. Because 2 halves is like the same as having 1 whole. See how I have 2 halves filled in? So 5 plus 1 is 6. We still have 6 here. We've just written it in a different way. Okay? Now we can subtract. You can do whole number minus whole number. 5 minus 3 is 2, and 2 halves minus 1 half is 1 half. So the answer would be, for number 4, is 2 and 1 half. Now I'm not going to flip back and forth between the screens because then I'm going to have to keep erasing. You, for number 4 on 287, you should write 2.5. I'm going to look in my book here to see what the next problem is. The next problem says, how many of the, it says, in the United States, the most popular business envelope is 4 1/8 by 9 1/2. It is called the standard number 10 envelope. How many of the envelopes sold at the right stuff have a height larger than 4 1/8 inches? So we need to find 4 1/8. You try and find it on your line plot, and then I'll show you where it is. Make sure you do that right now before I do. Okay, 4 1/8 is right here. It's one out of 8 jumps between 4 and 5. And they want to know how many are larger than that. So do we count this x? No, we don't count this x because it needs to be larger than that. If they wanted you to count that, they would say, how many are 4 1/8 or larger? This one just says, how many are larger than? So let's count the x's. Count all the x's that are larger than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the answer for letter A and number 5, page 287, is 10. Now check out letter B on 287. How many of the envelopes sold have a height smaller than 4 1/8? Again, if they want smaller, do we count this one? No. Because if they wanted this one counted, they would say, how many are 4 1/8 or smaller? This one just says, how many are smaller? So we want these x's. Go ahead and count those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? 8 are smaller. So this was, we're working on 287. This was letter A. And this was letter B on that page. Letter C says, how much larger is the height of the number 10 envelope than the smallest one sold? So on this one, the number 10 is the 4 1/8. This one is 3 1/2. So we need to do some subtracting there. 4 1/8 minus 3 1/2. Now, one way that you could do it is you could just count the number of eighths. But the other thing that this gives us a chance to do is this is the first time we've ever had to do any subtraction where we don't have common denominators. So what we need to do on this one, we can just, for right now, leave the 4 1/8. Okay? But we need to change this into eighths. Minus 3 4/8. Now how did I do that? How did I know it's 4/8? You might be asking yourselves. That's a great question. Here's what you do. We want to make our denominator eighths. Because we have eighths here, we want this to be eighths here. So what we need to do is, I make this little parenthesis with another fraction because we're going to multiply those. And here's what I do. It's so simple. 2 times what is 8? 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. And 4 is half of 8, so I know I'm right. Now it just becomes a normal subtraction problem. The 3 4/8 is going to stay the same, like we always do. So is the subtraction. We cross out the 4, we make it a 3. We take that 1 that we took away, because we had 4, now we have 3, and we make it a fraction over 8. Because it's 1 whole, it's going to be 8/8. 8/8 plus 1/8 is 9/8. Now you can do this one. 9/8 minus 4/8, 3 minus 3. Go ahead and try that. 3 minus 3 is 0. We're going to have eighths. 9 minus 4 is 5. So your answer for letter C should be 5/8. Alright, now it says, how much smaller is the number 10 envelope than the largest one? So on this one, we're looking at the largest one in the number 10 envelope. I'm going to do some erasing here, so make sure you have your answers written in. Okay, the number 10 is 4 1/8, which is this one. We have 6, so we're going to go 6 minus 4 1/8. Now this one is super easy compared to the last one, because we already know we're going to leave all of this the same. So minus 4 1/8. We need to regroup from the 6, cross it out, it's going to become a 5. Because we didn't have any other fraction, we know our denominator is going to be eighths. How many eighths do we have? We took 1 away. How many eighths is 1? 8/8. So here's your problem. 5 8/8 minus 4 1/8. Go ahead and solve that. 5 minus 4 is 1. 8 minus 1 is 7, and the denominator doesn't change because we're subtracting. 1 7/8. Okay, so with that said, we're going to take a look at your math boxes for today. This is not your assignment for the week, so I do not need an email. We will have a live math Zoom tomorrow, and that's where I will assign your math boxes. So, on Thursday, you already did this one. I assigned that on Thursday. So today, you do need to do number 2 because I didn't assign that. But I'm going to help you get it set up. It says, the Merman family used 3,955 liters of water in a week. The Santana family used 4,263 liters during the same week. On average, how much more water did the Santanas use in one day than the Mermans? Okay, so when we're setting this up, we know that the Santanas use more than the Mermans. And we know that in the end, we want to know how much more they use than the Mermans. So the first step in this is to write a number model. we want to know how much per day. So the Santana's used 4,263 liters per week. So that's 4,263 divided by 7. We're going to put that in parentheses because we got to figure out how much they used per day, and that's going to do it for us. We're going to have to subtract the Mermans from that, though. So we're going to put a minus on. The Mermans, they used 3,955 liters per week. We need to divide that by 7. And then that will give us how many liters. So that's going to come down here. Now the trick is when you want to go from liters to milliliters, take this answer and multiply it by 1,000, which is actually super easy. It's just adding 3 zeros and then multiplying by 1. That's exactly how you need to do that. 4,263 divided by 7, 3,955 divided by 7, then subtract those two numbers. That's as easy as I can make that. Okay, on box 3, you're doing C and D because this was our assignment for Thursday. Same thing over here. You're doing these two. These you should have done last Thursday. I do not need an email of this because this is not your assignment for this week. I will assign your math box assignment tomorrow when we do a live math Zoom. Alright guys, thanks for all your hard work today. We'll see you tomorrow.